Vaccinated or not, you come on the island and you want to participate in certain activities, all you have to do is take a COVID-19 test from an approved laboratory and you can end your quarantine early. Welcome to my channel. On today's video, I'm actually going to explain what the resilient corridor is. I recently did a video on everything you need to know, a step-by-step guide for when you're traveling to Jamaica during this pandemic, during COVID, and what are your requirements to enter, what are your requirements to actually travel inland or do activities inland, what are your requirements to exit the island. And a lot of people still don't understand what a resilient corridor is and what the benefits are and what the cons are of it, basically. So in this video I'm going to explain all of that, so let's get into it. So in today's video I'm going to start off by what is a resilient corridor, and it says Jamaica resilient corridor are specifically designated areas that have been designed to encourage safe tourism practice. All of the approved businesses and ventures within the corridors have been inspected and confirmed to comply with health and safety standards. There are two resilient corridors, and the first one stretches 294 kilometers along the north coast from the westernmost point on the island, which is Negril, to the Port Antonio in Portland. The second corridor extends from over the south coast, and it stretches from Milk River in Clarendon westward to Negril in Westmoreland, where it intersects with the first corridor. So there's two resilient corridors, if you did not know. Most people are only aware of the first one. So there's a lot of benefits to staying in the resilient corridor in Jamaica, and I'm going to explain that. So when you first are planning on going to Jamaica, whether that is for business, pleasure, or vacation, your travel authorization is very, very important, and it's very important what you're putting on your travel authorization and what the benefits are. So for tourists, I feel like they have the most benefits, especially if they're staying in the resilient corridor, and they have a host of hotels, villas, apartments, and other places that you can stay in the resilient corridor. They also have a host of activities, which I will definitely talk about, but the hotels, apartments, and villas are way too long, so I'll definitely just direct you to where you can find all the hotels and apartments and villas and all of that in a link in the description box. Tourists staying in a resilient corridor are required to remain at their hotel or resort for the entirety of their stay, except when they're going to a certified tourist attraction, and that certified tourist attraction has to be within the resilient corridor, and the persons that are taking you have to be authorized by the Jamaica Tourist Board. So you got to know what you're doing. However, they may book stays at other resilient corridor accommodations. Only COVID-19 resilient licensed hotel and resorts are open during the pandemic, and there are a lot. So you have a wide variety of accommodations to choose from. You're not restricted much in that sense, and I must say they did a great job at diversifying the apartments, the villas and hotels and all of that, and also at diversifying the attractions and the things that people can actually do while they're in Jamaica, because it makes no sense going to Jamaica and when you get inland you can't do any of the fun activities like rafting or jet skiing or any of that. Tourists are allowed to leave their accommodation to go to any tourist attraction that has been certified as COVID-19 resilient licensed attraction by the Jamaica Tourism Board and is located within the resilient corridor. All travel to and from the attraction must be with transportation that has been licensed according to the Tourist Board Act. And for information, I will definitely leave a link in the description box of all the attractions and all the transportation that was actually licensed by the Jamaica Tourist Board, so you can safely travel and safely have fun at these attractions without worrying. I'm gonna go into entry requirements, and it says all travelers to Jamaica have to complete a travel authorization form, which I talked about. And your travel authorization form is literally just gonna say your name, date, passport number, why you're coming in the island, how long you're coming in the island, how many pieces of luggage you're coming, where you're staying, what you plan on doing while you're on the island, and when you're leaving, when you're coming, flight number. That's a rundown of all the things that are on your travel authorization. They must also present a negative molecular or antigen test result from 3 days from the 3 days you're about to travel, no earlier than 3 days. So it says fully vaccinated Jamaican nationals and residents must remain quarantined for 8 days from their arrival unless they take a RT or PCR test at an approved laboratory after their arrival. If the test is negative, they may end their quarantine early. Unvaccinated Jamaican national and resident must quarantine for 14 days from their arrival. So if you're an unvaccinated Jamaican national or resident, so you are a citizen of Jamaica, you must quarantine for 14 days at arrival. You can end this quarantine if you take a COVID-19 test on your arrival at a approved laboratory. Tourists who are staying in a resilient corridor, regardless of vaccination status, will undergo a health screening and risk assessment on arrival in Jamaica and may be subject to testing. If they are not tested, tourists can go straight to their accommodations in the resilient corridor. Fully vaccinated tourists who are not staying in the resilient corridor. So if you don't plan on staying in the resilient corridor, this is for you. So fully vaccinated tourists that are not in the resilient corridor, you're off the beaten path, you are up a bubble hill with the rest of them. That does not entail any of the places from Negril to Port Antonio or from Milk Bath to actually Negril. Then this is for you. It says must quarantine for 8 days from their arrival in Jamaica, although they can choose to do a COVID-19 test at their own expense at a approved laboratory after their arrival in Jamaica. If they obtain a negative result, they can end their quarantine period early. So vaccinated or not, you come on the island and you want to participate in certain activities, all you have to do is take a COVID-19 test from a approved laboratory and you can end your quarantine early. And it says unvaccinated tourists who are not staying in the resilient corridor must quarantine for 14 days for their arrival in Jamaica. So if you're unvaccinated and you're not staying in the resilient corridor, you must quarantine for 14 days. So there is a host of benefits of actually staying in the resilient corridor, which is why a lot of tourists and a lot of returning residents choose to stay in the resilient corridor, because it allows you some freedom, it allows you some benefits. These travelers will take a RT or PCR test at their own expense on arrival in Jamaica and must self-isolate at their accommodation until they receive their result. If they are fully vaccinated and receive a negative result, they do not have to quarantine. If they are unvaccinated and receive a negative result, they do not have to quarantine, but they must abide by the stay at the intended address for business travelers measures. Fully vaccinated Jamaican national residents and tourists who are not staying in the resilient corridor must quarantine for 8 days from their arrival in Jamaica, although they do have an option to take a PCR test or RT test at their own expense at a approved laboratory. Like I said before, after their arrival, if the test is negative, they can end their quarantine period early. And it says, is the PCR test mandatory in Jamaica? And it says all travelers ages 12 and older must have proof of a negative molecular or antigen test result that was obtained within 3 days of travel. The RT test, the PCR test, the NAAT test, and the RNA tests are acceptable. The test must be authorized by the FDA or WHO and be performed by a CAP, CIELA, or ISO certified laboratory for you to enter Jamaica. I'm actually gonna go in and give you guys some of the attractions that is done, that's licensed by the Jamaica Authority. 876 Legends Club in Trelawney, Alligator Head Fountain in Portland, Animal Farm Hanover, Aqua Site Ltd Westmoreland, Orchestra Tours, Bamboo Beach, Barrett Adventures in St. James, Belle Great House Limited in St. James, Big Naughty J.A. Magical Adventures, Black River Safari Tours Ltd, Bunkers Hill Cultural Experience and Rivers Tour, Calypso Rafting in St. Anne, Captain Junior Westmoreland, Captain Moses Westmoreland, Captain Splash Tube and Tour St. Anne, Caymanis Golf Club St. Catherine, Catered Memories Westmoreland, Chocka Caribbean Adventures, Chocka Caribbean Adventures Zipline in St. Elizabeth, Chocka Caribbean Adventures Tours Good Hope Trelawney, Chocka Caribbean Adventures in St. James, Chocka Caribbean Adventures in St. Anne, Chocka Cove in St. Anne, and then Cinnamon Hill Golf Course and Great House in St. James, Club Kingston in Kingston, Coral Cliff, St. James, the Costa Farms in St. Catherine, Devon House Development Limited in Kingston, Doctor's Cave Bath and Club, St. James, Dolphin Cove in Hanover, Belmont Road, St. Anne, Moon Palace, St. Anne, and Porter Seco, St. Anne. Duns River is on the list. Falmouth Blue Waters Beach Club, Falmouth Mystic Lagoon, 5-Star Water Sports in St. Anne, Fly High Parasailing Ltd Westmoreland, Flying on Water Ltd St. Anne, Garfield Diving Station, Greenboro Grotto Caves, Half Moon Equestrian Center, Hampton Tours, Hollowell Recreational Park, Hovers Island Caters, Island Dog Water Sports, Island Gully Falls, Ivan Native Water Sports, Jamaican Board Cruises, Jamaica Swamp Safari Village in Trelawney, Jam West Motorsports and Adventure Park Westmoreland, John Hall Adventure Tours in St. James, Joy Spence Appleton Rum Experience St. Elizabeth, Just Hook It Charters St. James, Kelly Water Sports St. James, Honko Falls in St. Anne, Lady Boss Glass Bottom Tours Westmoreland, Lady G Diver Portland, Little Reef for Water Sports, loose cannon boat charters, tours, and supreme ventures, racing and entertainment, and the list goes on and on and on. And that is just to name a few of them. So comment in the comment section, will you be staying in the resilient corridor when you go to Jamaica? And if you're staying in the resilient corridor, where and what attractions and activities are you going to participate in? What are your thoughts on the resilient corridor? Do you think the corridor needs to be expanded? Do you think that regular nationals in Jamaica with businesses need to be included in the corridor? What are your thoughts on them not being involved? And this is mostly geared towards other big tourism establishment and not like the little Jamaican man. I honestly feel like it is not beneficial for them personally, and it's not fair, but I think they did an okay job of actually allowing tourists to come to Jamaica and be safe and actually social distance and not catch COVID. So you have to give them props where props is due, and they deserve props in that sense. Comment what your thoughts are in the comment section. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Deuces.